Hi makers! Today we are going to talk about buttons. No, not this kind of buttons. I mean push buttons or momentary switches if you want to be more technical. They come in all shapes and sizes, like these two I have here. But honestly, they all do the same job. In this video, I will show you how to connect a button to a breadboard, how the Arduino reads its state, and go over three core concepts: the pull-ups, the pull-downs, and the input pull-up mode. A typical push button has 4 legs or pins. Internally, pins 1 and 2 are connected to each other, and pins 3 and 4 are also connected together. However, there's no connection between the two sides. When the button is not pressed, the left and right pairs are electrically isolated. Press the button, and an internal contact connects both sides, closing the circuit and allowing the current to flow. Release it, and the connection breaks again, stopping the current. In simple terms, a push button is a momentary switch. It only works while you are pressing it. Now, let's dive into a simple circuit where you can use a button to toggle an LED on and off. For this build, we'll need an Arduino board, a breadboard, one push button, an LED, a 220 ohm resistor, and a few jumper wires. First up, connect your 5V and ground pins from the Arduino over to the power rails on your breadboard. Go ahead and place the button right in the center of the breadboard. After that, connect the 220 ohm resistor between the 5V rail and the anode of the LED to limit the current and prevent the LED from burning out. The cathode of the LED should be connected to the same row as pin 1 of the button. At this point, connect pin 3 of the button to ground rail. Finally, plug your USB cable to the Arduino. When you press the button, it creates a connection between pin 1 and pin 3, completing the circuit and allowing the LED to turn on. Now, let's do another experiment. What happens if we connect the ground to the other pins? First, use another jumper wire to connect the ground rail on the left side of the breadboard to the one on the right, so both sides share ground. Then, move the wire from pin 3 to pin 2. Do you see what happens? Since these two pins are always connected internally, the LED stays on. It doesn't matter whether you press the button or not. However, if you connect it to pin 4, the behavior is different. The LED only turns on when you press the button, just like it did with pin 3. This demonstrates the basic behavior of a push button. Let's make things a bit more interesting and split this circuit into two. That means, instead of a direct link between the button and the LED, communication happens through a middleman, the Arduino itself. Let's start by creating the LED circuit. Connect the jumper wire from pin 12 of the Arduino to the breadboard. On that same row, place one end of your resistor and connect the other end of the resistor to the anode of the LED on a different row. Finally, the cathode of the LED goes straight to ground. Now, let's move on to the second circuit, the input side. Pop the button back onto the breadboard. Connect Arduino pin 6 to pin 1 of the button and ground to pin 3. With this setup, the button is now acting as an input device for the Arduino. Next, we need to jump over to the Arduino IDE and write the code that tells the LED what to do. Open up a new sketch and name it whatever you want. I'm calling mine LED push button. First thing first, we need to define which pins we are using. I prefer to use #define, but Using an int variable works just as well. Next, inside our setup function, we have to configure the pin modes. The button X has an input because Arduino needs to read whether it's being pressed or not. The LED is an output because we are sending a signal to it. In the last video, we used functions like digital write and analog write. But here, we want to read a value from the button, so we use digital read. We also need to create an integer variable called switch value to temporarily store the reading we get from the button pin. First, we initialize the variable to 0, and then, in our main loop, we update it with the value returned by digital read. From here, we need to decide what should happen based on the button status. To do that, we use an if statement. In this setup, when the value is high, the button is not pressed, so the LED stays off. This happens because the input pin is directly connected to 5 volts. On the other hand, when the value is low, which is when you make the connection to ground by pressing the button, the LED turns on. Alright, time to upload this code. Okay, the LED turns on, but something is clearly not right. The LED seems to flicker or light up randomly even when we aren't touching the button. Let's do a little debugging to figure out what's going on. To debug this, we just need to initialize serial communication in the setup function and then add some serial print calls in the loop. In this case, we print the switch value so we can continuously read what the button is returning. We also add two additional messages to clearly indicate when the LED is on or off, making the behavior easier to understand while monitoring the output. Now, upload the code and open the serial monitor. If you want to better observe the values, you can disable auto scroll option. This makes it easier to notice repeated readings. As you can see, we have a common problem known as floating. It happens when a pin on Arduino isn't connected to anything stable, so it can randomly read high or low. The pin starts randomly picking up static from the environment or from the wires themselves. If I touch the wire, you can see that the values changes, and since the pin is super sensitive, it can interpret that noise as a signal. But here's the important part. The button is not the problem. This issue only occurs because that specific pin is floating. If you remember, this didn't happen in our first circuit, when the LED was wired directly to the button. And don't worry, there's a simple way to fix this, which we will look at right now. To fix the floating problem, we need to make one small change to our physical circuit. To do this, simply add a 10 kilo-ohm resistor between the 5-volt rail and pin 1 of the button. After that, connect pin 6 of the Arduino directly to the same pin on the button. This resistor essentially forces the input pin into a stable state, so it no longer floats. This specific setup is called a pull-up resistor configuration. When the button is not pressed, the resistor pulls the pin up to 5 volts, and the Arduino reads high. When the button is pressed, the pin is connected to ground, and the Arduino reads low. Besides the pull-up solution, there's another very common option called the pull-down resistor. The core idea is the same. The only difference is how we wire the button. In a pull-down configuration, we connect the jumper wire from 5 volts to pin 1 of the button, and we connect the 10K resistor between pin 3 and ground. Then we connect pin 6 of the Arduino to pin 3 which becomes our new input pin. This is what we call a pull-down configuration. The logic is reversed compared to pull-up. When the button is not pressed, the resistor pulls the pin down to ground and Arduino reads low. When the button is pressed, it connects the pin to 5 volts and Arduino reads high. So the behavior is inverted, but the goal is the same: to keep that input pin at a stable voltage level and avoid floating inputs at all costs. So, the big question: which one is better, pull up or pull down? If you look at these pictures, you can see both configurations and the logic they follow. The difference isn't huge, they just invert the logic. A pull down happens when the button is not pressed and the resistor pulls the pin down to ground and the Arduino reads low. On the other side, a pull up happens when the button is not pressed and the resistor pulls the pin up to 5 volts and Arduino reads high. So technically, both work fine and the choice is mostly a matter of preference. However, the pull-up setup is generally used more often for one good reason. It matches the Arduino's incredibly useful built-in input pull-up feature, the input pull-up. That means you don't even need that external 10K resistor. The Arduino already has one built right inside the chip. Let's see how input pull-up works in practice. On the breadboard, let's put our circuit back in the pull-up configuration. Done. Now, back to our code. First, we need to change a few things to match our pull-up wiring and logic. Now that we are using input pull-up, the logic is inverted. Low means the button is pressed. High means the button is released. So we need to swap the LED behavior in our if statement. When the button reads low, the LED turns on. And when it reads high, the LED turns off. And now, instead of using input, we change the pin mode configuration to input pull-up. This single line of code activates the Arduino's internal pull-up resistor, completely eliminating the need for an external resistor. How incredible is that? So now let's upload these changes and see the final result. As you can see, now the LED only lights up when you physically press the button. And because we are using input pull-up, we don't need this external resistor anymore. Before we finish up today, let's answer a question that always pops up. Should I use a physical 10K resistor, or can I just use the internal pull-up in the code? Well, both work great, but they do have some key differences. Using that physical 10K resistor gives you a stronger and more stable signal. This means your pin is less sensitive to noise, especially if you are using long wires, which can act like little antennas picking up interference. The 10K resistor helps keep that signal crystal clear. On the other hand, using input pull-up mode is simpler and faster because you don't need any extra component. So, here's my quick rule of thumb for you. Go for the external 10K resistor if you need the maximum reliability, especially in noisy setups or with long wires. Stick with input pull-up for simple, clean circuits and fewer components with lower power consumption. If you don't have these components at home but still want to practice, you can use Tinkercad. I'll leave links in the description below for each circuit setup we built today. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials. Keep practicing, keep building, and I will see you in the next one.